Welcome to Bright Hope Creations. I'm Kara, and today we're creating a castle in the clouds fit for a king or a princess, and we're using the platform pop-up. I've cut 2 of the main die with Bristol cardstock for blending. Also the T support pieces from the platform pop-up, and then this is the platform pop-up cloud wraparound. I cut that twice, and the platform pop-up cloud inserts. I cut out pieces from the Build-A-Castle, from Stripes and Sprinkles 6x6 paper pack, and also from Moonstone and Sage cardstock. And I cut out a lot of choices here. Now for stamps, I'm using Tiny Fairy Tale, a Little Sparkle, and Little Dragon. Let's start by putting this platform pop-up together. So I'm using some 1/4-inch double-sided tape and finding the different tabs and just adding that. I'll add tape to the tabs of the T-braces as well. I'm not going to use that center T-brace. I'm going to use a cloud insert instead, and we'll see that a little later on. I'll flip over the main panel, insert that brace into the slot, and folding that over at the score line and taking off the release papers. I'm going to adhere that brace and fold that up one more time, tuck it in that tab, and we've got one side done. I'll show you the process again. We'll flip over that main panel and insert the brace, take off the release papers, fold at the score line, and tuck in that tab and set it up just the same way. I have my cloud inserts here, but I'm going to wait to put those in until I've ink blended everything. So I'll set this all aside and start on my platform pop-up cloud wraparounds. Now I want to crease all of the score lines, give them a nice crease first. And looking at those 2 little clouds, you can see I've been practicing or figuring out the way I wanted to ink blend them. And I've decided on the one with the color coming from below the clouds, and I'm using Distress Oxide in Picked Raspberry and Salty Ocean, blending those together, getting a little pinkiness at the top, but some purpley blue look at the bottom. I'm picking up a little of that picked raspberry and blending it to the curves at the top of the clouds as well, just to give them a rounded look. I ink blended the other half of the cloud wraparound just the same way. We're moving on to the cloud inserts, and I'm speeding this up a little bit, just so you can see the whole process, but we're not taking all the time of watching the process. I apologize for some of the shakiness during the ink blending. I am at a remote location and my table is not as sturdy as the one at home. All right, on to the small inserts and the little clouds. I inked up a lot of those clouds, not knowing how many I wanted to use, and I wanted to give myself some options. Time to add those inserts. I'm using an 1/8-inch double-sided tape on those braces and adding the insert. I'm using 1/4-inch double-sided tape for that larger insert, and that's going to go into the center or sandwiched in between the 2 parts of the platform pop-up. Now I'm going to finish putting that pop-up together by adding tape to the 2 tabs and tape to the center, and then I'm going to line them up and put 1 tab on. I'm making sure I have that straight, and then I can fold over the other half. Again, making sure to line everything up straight, and then I can tuck in that tab, and I have my completed pop-up. I have 1 more insert to add, and I find it easy to put this on if I fold the pop-up so that it's popped all the way up. It gives me access to that 1 brace, and now I can put together that wraparound. I'm applying 1/4-inch tape to both of those tabs, and it's kind of like a belly band for a card if you've ever made one of those. It's kind of just something that's going to slip over the card. This is going to slip over our pop-up. I'm adding some adhesive to the base of the pop-up, and I find it easiest to slip this on from the top down. and just kind of pushing it with my thumb and forefinger just to the right spot, and it just kind of goes right in place. Now on to the castle. I am ink blending with some of that Salty Ocean Distress Oxide ink to give the castle some dimension. Adhering it all together using my tape runner. You can see on the side, I cut out a lot of different turret toppers. Wanted to kind of mix and match or see what was going to work best. I actually ended up doubling some of them. So it was fun to have the choices available. Sometimes it helps to cut out a few more than you're going to use just to see what works together. I ended up having the green stripe peeking out from behind the blue, so the solid in front, and that made those turret tops come out or be pronounced, but I wanted that little hint of the green because I wanted this to be a blue and green castle and use those different pattern papers together, the stripes and the sprinkles, and since I had that green stripe door, I really wanted to show that in other places, but having those solid cardstocks mixed in, the moonstone and sage, kept the patterns from getting too busy. It kind of turned down the volume of that visual noise. Now that the castle is complete, I'm going to add it to my clouds, and I decided I want to fill this up with more clouds. So I ended up cutting 2 more of the insert, the large insert, and I'm ink blending one the right way and one on the back side so that I can put them together and you can see the clouds if you're looking from the front or from the back. It's got a nice ink blended look to it. Now, in order to adhere to the inside of the back of the pop-up, I clipped it down, but I clipped it down way more than I needed to. So I ink blended one of the small inserts and clipped it down to fit that back panel and put that over the clouds, and now we have lots of clouds in the background. Now it's time to stamp out our characters for this castle. In true fairy tale style, we'll have our little fairies and princess and a frog prince and dragons and unicorns, and it's any little princess's dream. So I'm using some jet black ink and I'm going to ink up all those stamps and press that down in my MISTI. And then I'm going to take an acrylic block and add some more of the little knights because I'm going to have them guarding this castle all around in the clouds. I'll also add a few more flames and a lot of sparkles. Now, as I said, I wasn't home, and I usually do take my Copics with me when I travel, but this time I reached for my Zig Clean Color markers, and this comes in a 12-pack, the ones that I have. They're not the brush ones. They have a fine tip and kind of a bullet tip. I do find that they blend easier on Bristol cardstock, and so that's what I'm using. And those fine tips can go right into those little lines. And if you look at all the knights on the bottom, I was deciding what colors I wanted to use for these knights. So a little bit of trial and error, but I'm pretty happy I'm going with that purple, royal purple for these knights. Now, another way that I use these markers is by drawing or scribbling some on a mat and putting some water down and then picking that up with a water brush. I'm combining the brown and the pink to try to find a good flesh color for my knight, but also the princess and for the wizard and the fairies. I like that it's like watercolor. You can build up the layers, so if it's too light, I can just add another coat and I've got a darker skin color. I also feel that if I scribble it off on the side and pick it up with a water brush, I just have more control over how much color I'm putting on without having to blend it out right directly on the image. So I can start with a light layer and then add in the shading and texture from there. I'll bring this up closer so you can see that a little better. First, I'll add that purple in for his tummy and wings and spines and such. And then going back to his skin, I'm going directly onto the body with the marker, and then I'll dab each of those little dots out with some water just to diffuse them a little bit. So that gives him more texture. Once I've finished all the coloring, decided I need some serious sparkle on these guys. And so I'm putting glue in strategic areas and then pouring on the Prisma glitter. And then I'll take a brush once that's dry and start brushing off the excess. Time for the clouds to get a little sparkle too. The glue tubes have a great tip to make a nice line for that. And then I can add the sparkle. And once everything is glitified, now I can cut it all out and look at all these wonderful pieces. I just love looking at them all together like that. But seeing them next to the castle, I felt like it was a little lackluster, so added some glitter to the castle as well. Now there's one more element to make, and that is the sentiment. And this sentiment comes from the Tiny Fairy Tale, and I am putting it onto a heart garland backdrop landscape banner. So the banner that comes from the heart garland backdrop. I stamped it out with clear ink, and I'm adding white embossing powder, and then I'll melt that with my heat tool, and then I can ink blend that the way I did with the clouds. So I'm using picked raspberry and salty ocean, but I'm going to add more layers or darken that color a little bit so that you can see the white embossed sentiment. I'll wipe the excess ink off of the words so that they show up clearly, and then fold the ends on the score lines. So that's one thing I love about this banner, is that it has that Z-fold fishtail ribbon look. All right, all of the elements are ready, and it's time to position everybody in place. And so the fun part is just looking at everybody and deciding where they're going to go. So Princess is up in the window up there. Merlin's going to stand down by the door. That frog ends up kind of near his sweetheart there in one of the turrets. Now the knights are going to stand guard around the perimeter, and they each have a cloud to stand on, or they will stand on the banner. Here they are on the back side of the clouds, protecting that castle. And then the dragon is going to come up and be near his friends too. So I don't know, those knights, are they oblivious to this dragon? They're just down on the bottom there. But anyway, it's a nice dragon. And the flames that he is throwing, they're just to warm up his friends. They're not close enough to burn them because it's chilly out and he wants them to have a little heat. So he's a good guy. The unicorn's going to kind of balance him out by being down there on the other side, hanging out there with Merlin. And then I cut some acetate to put these little fairies flying up around the castle. Just two fairy friends buzzing around the princess, probably giving her some advice regarding that frog prince. Hopefully they steer her in the right direction. So just gonna finish up by adding that sparkle. I'm also adding extra clouds to the back and some sparkle there. I want to leave a little space to add a message, but I really don't need to say much, I don't think. I think this card speaks for itself, and I think it will make one of the little princesses in my life very happy. So here it is, all flat and popped up, and here's a good 360 look at the card. I hope you enjoyed the card today and that it inspired you to use the new platform pop-up cloud inserts and wrap around to make a castle in the clouds for yourself. Thanks for watching and have a great day. Bye.